From the ultimate heartbreak in Season 1 with Hallie's death to the insane first episode of Season 3, there are many episodes of Chicago Fire that broke our hearts, and these are just 10 of them. First up, Season 1, Episode 19. This Season 1 episode made people cry in the first 5 minutes. A little boy fell into a laundry chute while enjoying with his brother. He got stuck and couldn't get out, and he died from his injuries. Even more heartbreaking, the boy's mother went to the firehouse to give them a picture she said her son would have wanted them to have. The picture was of her son dressed up as a fireman, because that's what he wanted to be when he grew up. By the end of the episode, there wasn't a single dry eye in the room when the whole of Firehouse 51 lined up on the sidewalk to honor the little boy. The next one is also about a really sad death sequence that took place in Season 1, Episode 22. Hallie and Casey were a much more popular couple before Gabby and Casey. Even though Hallie was only in the show for 1 season, her death was still hard to see. From Casey's pain as he begs her to breathe, to his sobbing in the doctor's arms when the worst happens, it's hard to get through this episode without shedding a tear. And when Mills walked up to them and Casey just clung to him while the rest of the team stood there in tears, you probably lost any mental stability you had left. Truly unsettling. It wasn't easy to watch. This next episode also had an encounter that made all of us shed a tear or two. I'm talking about Season 7, Episode 6. Even though he didn't appear often on the show, Benny Severide became a well-known figure very quickly. So both Kelly and his friends were completely shocked when they heard he'd had a stroke. Benny died before Kelly could get to med to see him, which was heart-wrenching. Kelly told Bowden that the last thing he'd said to him was that Bowden was a better parent than he was. Bowden tells him that Benny helped convince the commissioner to stop putting pressure on the firehouse. This news breaks Kelly's heart, and it broke my heart to see Kelly cry because of his guilt and sadness. This next episode will be especially crushing for all those people who have lost their children, and, well, everyone else too. I'm talking about Season 4, Episode 4. There were some very sad scenes in this Season 4 episode, between Gabby almost dying and the loss of her and Casey's unborn child. This was full of instances that made people want to cry. Gabby needed surgery right away to save her life, and Will Halstead from the One Chicago Universe's medical show, Chicago Med, was there to help her through it. This episode was hard to watch because it showed the real pain of losing a child, and Gabby's denial when she found out about the baby. It was hard to feel anything but pure heartache for the pair. If you thought that their pain ended here, well, you couldn't be more wrong. Season 5, Episode 10. After losing their baby the year before, Casey and Gabby were hit again when they had to say goodbye to Louie, the foster child they had won the right to keep at the end of Season 4. It was so sad to see the pair deal with the death of another child. After everything they'd been through, saying goodbye to Louie was very hard, especially for Gabby, who found it hard to deal with the fact that they were back in the same position. For them to be right back where their pain started was not only painful for them, but for us as well. After the ending of Season 2, we were all dying to find out what happened, and none of us were ready for this level of intensity. But even that might pale in comparison to Season 3, Episode 1. In the explosive ending that was the Season 2 finale, no one knew where anyone was or how they were doing inside the building. Since Chief Bowden was outside and unable to talk to anyone on the phone, no one knew if anyone was hurt. Shay got hit the hardest by the explosion. From Severide giving her CPR to Casey, Mouch, Herman, and Cruz pushing him and Gabby out of the way to get her out, the first 5 minutes of this episode were enough to make you cry for the rest of it. Then, between Gabby's guilt and the flashbacks, this episode never stopped waving the grief around. So long, Leslie Shay. This next one has to be one of the saddest episodes yet. Season 5, Episode 22. Gabby, you're my miracle. What about this episode wasn't heartbreaking? It's hard to say what hurt the most in this one, though the idea of losing Casey, Herman, and Mouch all at once was far up there. The episode finished finished with what might be the worst cliffhanger of the whole show. Most of the team was stuck in a burning building with no way out. Mouch had a heart attack, and Casey broke everyone's hearts by saying goodbye to Gabby over the radio. This wasn't an easy episode to watch. Even worse was the painful 4-month wait to find out who had lived and who had died. The next one is another tragic case of getting too attached to a character that you shouldn't have been attached to. Season 5, Episode 20. Kelly has been with a number of people, from Aaron Lindsay to Renee Royce. But the bond he had with Anna Turner was like nothing else. Anna only appeared in 10 episodes of Season 5, but she left a sad mark on Severide and the fans that will stay with them forever. There was something special between them from the first time they met. What began as a relationship between a donor and a receiver turned into a beautiful friendship that was cut way too short. There were a lot of touching moments between these two in the short time they were together, but it broke my heart to see Kelly cry in her father's arms after her mother died of cancer. What I've learned from watching this show is that I can't handle sad content well, especially given the mess I was in after watching this next episode. Season 4, Episode 10. Christopher Herman is the Chicago Fire family's beating heart. He has been a counselor, a father figure, and a shoulder to cry on for everyone in the One Chicago world over the last 10 years. So when Freddie stabbed him in the middle of Season 4, it was scary to think that he might die. After being rushed to the hospital, Herman had a lot of problems. His Firehouse family came very close to losing him. He went into hypovolemic shock and had to be rushed into surgery to try to stop the bleeding. Herman's critical state was bad enough, but the touching moment between him and Cruz broke your heart even more. Nothing would be the same without him. This episode literally had me sobbing. The last one ruined every single person that was watching. Remember the time when everyone cried while watching Season 8, Episode 1? It's safe to say that the Season 8 premiere didn't hold anything back. It showed one of the most heartbreaking deaths in the history of the One Chicago series. It took away a loved member of Firehouse 51, along with a piece of everyone's heart. After the shocking events of the Season 7 End of Fire, Cruz finds Otis badly hurt in the rubble. Otis woke up at Med and said something to Joe in Russian before he died, leaving fans in pieces. At the end of the episode, Bowden showed Cruz a tribute to Otis and translated his last words: "Brother, I will always be with you." When Cruz started crying in front of his tribute and the rest of the team kneeled down with him, we were there with them crying too. So sad. One wouldn't expect this show to be this sad at the first glance, but wait till you get into the dark parts of the show. That's all for the 10 Chicago Fire episodes that broke our hearts.